You're at your old trusty boat. You call my tea sparrow. I'm in the city of Mardi Gras.
Welcome to the Sailing into Oblivion podcast, where we sit down with everyday people who do extraordinary things. I'm your host, Jerome Rand. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show on this Memorial Day weekend. Today, I got to sit down with Peter Beale, who is a local fiberglass expert. I've seen him at work, and it is really impressive. He can build fuel tanks. Basically, he can build entire boats. Definitely has decades of experience in the field, and so we just chatted about glass and a few other things, and hopefully you guys will enjoy it. And since we were talking about fiberglass, it seemed like it attracted the others, and there was a guy out sanding away on his boat outside of Murph's shack. Shout out to Murph for letting us use it. But so I had to keep the microphones down quite a bit. So it was a little hard to regulate the voices and stuff. So apologize if the audio quality isn't up to snuff, but I still think it's pretty interesting interesting conversation we had. And so figure I'll put it out anyway. So if you want to support the podcast, head on over to Patreon. I'll put the link into the description. But other than that, here we go. Thanks for listening. Oh, yeah. We've been recording the whole time. Don't even worry. That's a little trick I do.
Well,
I pressed record a long time ago,
There
and
you
I'll edit out the first little chunk. But.
Okay, no worries. Yeah, out of high school class of '87, Rockland, I was working at Van Balen's up in the industrial park, and
Yeah. Oh, that was building the skiffs, right?
well, the Van Balen's was a clothing place I worked at for a little bit,
Oh, okay.
right, and ended up getting laid off. I went to visit my mother at lunch at North End Marine up in the industrial park, and they said, "Oh, you're looking for work?" And I said, "Yeah," and they came in the next day. So since 1989, I've been building boats.
Building boats, working glass. It's one of those things where obviously everybody who owns a boat at some point or another has to do it.
Yes.
And for me, it was always just a mystery. Like,
Yeah.
all these stages measuring fluids and liquids, and then there's like this permanence to it that's a little scary when you start doing it, but then you start to get really good with a grinder.
And that's one of the best things. The project's going to come out a lot better when you're good with your grinder.
Yeah,
The
because
better you can prep it, the better the project's going to come out.
well, and that's, I've always sort of described boats are just hardened putty in a way, because
Plastic.
Yeah, as stout and solid as they seem, you can change the shape and everything on them just by mixing these chemicals and throwing that glass on, and good to go.
Change colors, anything you like.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, and you enjoy doing it, right?
Yeah, I've been doing it this long, and I've done it for long enough so that I know what I do want to do, and I know what I don't want to do.
What's your favorite part of it?
Well, I like working on the lobster boats. The guys that work for a living, they come in, they appreciate your job because you're the one that's helping them get back on the road or back in the water.
Yeah.
So they can make their livelihood. And
Yeah.
I like doing those, and they're very appreciative. They like paying you money, and they like giving you lobsters, and I got
That's
friends.
the incentive up here in Maine, right?
I can go to Matinicus whenever I want. I can go to different islands to go fiberglass if I wanted to.
I'm sure, thinking about it, you are probably a pretty wanted man. The minute you walk into a boatyard, I'll bet you get pulled aside every which way.
Well, it depends on if I see a couple people that I know, and then it's on. Then they're like, oh, just coming in here daily, somebody finds out that I'm fiberglassing, and they all have questions for me, or can you do this for me? Can you look at this for me?
Yeah.
One of my can I do it myself? And most time you can, but how do you want it to come out?
It's better if you do it. Way better.
Spend a little extra money, and you can have it done right.
Right. Exactly. How many projects you got going at the boatyard here right now?
I think 3 going right now, and 2 more behind that.
Holy cow. But when you're working fiberglass, it's sort of, I guess it's advantageous to have multiple projects, because once you lay the stuff down,
right,
then you have to wait.
Well, what I can do is I prep more than one project at a time, and I have all the glass laid out for each project, and I will go and glass each project that one day. So one day I'll go in and prep all the projects.
Yeah.
Then the next day I'll come in and glass all the projects, and then I just
just
it
keep
all
rotating
in a cycle
through it.
like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Instead of trying to hop around doing different parts at different times, I try to keep them all in a cycle.
Gotcha. That
So
makes sense.
you-
So yeah, it's like
you're not
all
taking-
grinding one day, and then all prepping, and then all
Right.
glassing.
Yeah, and you just don't want to. It's easier when you have all the glass out to cut all the glass you need for all the projects.
Right.
Instead of hauling the glass out 3 or 4 different times.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. I don't know. It's always been one of those things where, gosh, I've done a fair amount of it, but I've never been able to make it perfect where it looks like it came out of a factory.
Yeah. Well, a lot of that now is products.
Oh,
You
really?
know, the peel ply that you apply on after the fiberglass job is done, after you bubble popped, you put the peel ply on, and it comes out as smooth as the boat began.
What is
you know,
peel ply? I've never even heard of that.
It's a releasing fabric that you put on top of the project when you're all done bubble popping. When you think you're all done, you lay this it's almost like a shiny bed sheet,
Oh, really?
and you lay that on top of it, and kind of bubble pop or just roll it in with your roller, and it lays right in. And when it's all kicked off, you go back and you peel that off, and everything else underneath of it is all smooth.
It's all perfect.
So it doesn't have the matte fiber look
Yeah,
that
yeah.
you have if you just do it by hand.
Right. Well, and isn't there? I mean, with commonly when I'm doing stuff, it's typically with West Systems.
Yeah, epoxy.
So I put my epoxy down, I put some glass down, and this and that, and then when I want to smooth it, then I'm mixing up some more West System with some filler in it.
Yep.
And I guess typically I'm using low dense filler if it's like the top surface to try and smooth it, but. Then I'll go and sand it, and I feel it, and it looks like, I'm like, okay, this has got to be done. And I lay a coat of paint down, and then I see all the places that I screwed up. And then it's sort of, then I just have to make the decision, do I want to grind it again, or do I want to just call it good?
Well, peel ply you can use with epoxy products or regular fiberglass resin.
Oh, okay.
So that's so actually it began, I think, as a epoxy product.
Oh,
You know,
okay.
What it does, it just fills in everything.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
you know, those nooks and crannies, they still show up sometimes.
The little pock marks,
right,
yeah.
the little pot marks, a little putty and paint, and make her what she ain't. You know? That's what they've been saying for years.
Yeah, right, exactly.
And
Oh,
I've been
man.
doing that part for years because it's true. You know.
Well, what's the difference, though, between West Systems, which you said's an epoxy, and just regular fiberglass resin?
Well, epoxy is a lot stronger product. It is something that I don't always use. Most of it's for, you know, wooden sailboats and stuff like that. Or
Yeah.
they'll also what's the other cold molded boats is another project that they do. Lyman Morse has started to doing those, and they put sheets of thin layers of wood down, and in between each layer they epoxy it down, and then they vacuum bag it, and it just sucks it all right down super tight.
Right.
So with the fiberglass, you can actually go over fiberglass several times. You can actually
layer
go over
over layer
you can
over
actually
layer.
go over it with epoxy, but once you use epoxy, you can never use the other products again.
It has to be
It
more
has to be
epoxy.
epoxy. You cannot glass to epoxy with resin. Once you go epoxy, you have to stay up with epoxy the whole time. 'Cause
Okay. They
will
just
not
won't
stick
bind.
together.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
You know,
That's interesting.
so it's just one of those things. I'd rather use resins. You know, vinyl ester resin is very good resin. It's used for underwater.
Yeah.
You know, and
Well, and it's less expensive, too. I mean,
vinyl ester is pretty expensive in itself. You know, before it was like $400, $400 or $500 for a 5-gallon bucket of it.
oh, really?
Yeah.
Holy cow.
That was during some of the shortage and stuff, though. I don't know what the price is now, but
Right. Well, it's kind of interesting that West Sail 32, part of the reason those boats have stood up to the test of time, besides being, just layer upon layer of glass. I mean, they're essentially built like a Maine lobster boat.
Right.
But they were built, I think when they were at their peak building most of their boats was during the oil crisis in the 70s.
Yeah.
And that bled into resin, and you couldn't get any just regular resin, so they had to fork out a ton of money to get the good stuff.
Get the good ones, yep.
And so, most of those boats, they find that some of them are sitting in the water for 20 years, and they yank them out, and there's no blisters, none of that sort of stuff. It's also what led to their bankruptcy, because it cost them more money to build the boats than they took in.
Yeah.
So it was sort of their downfall. But, people that own them now, like myself, we sort of are lucky.
Yeah,
because I have a little bit of blistering, I think, in some of the hull paint, but nothing under the waterline.
Right, and that's where you don't want it to be.
That's exactly where you don't want it to be. But what do you do for when you walk up? Do you get people that come up and you look at their hull and it's just filled with blisters and you got to deal with that? How in the hell do you even tackle
a lot
something
of the
like
time? I try to pass that on to somebody else. Paint guys, they need projects too. And for me, that would be a job that it's going to be easier for somebody to paint the hull. They're going to go in and scuff it up, and instead of me, I'm going to go in there and grind on the hull and fix the repairs, and then I'm going to putty it and stuff like that. These guys can go in, sand what they want to do, sand it, and then fair it back up properly with putties and other products that work great.
Yeah, to do like the finishing touches.
All
on
fair
it.
putties, if it's an epoxy stuff, that stuff works awesome. And you can paint right over it, prime it and paint it, and you're golden.
Yeah.
And it's rugged stuff too. Lyman used it. All their paint jobs all have all fair putty under them. And
all fair putty.
Yeah, it's a 2-part putty that.
Oh, okay.
They use it for epoxy, like Indigo. I did that boat and.
I remember that one.
The keel seam.
The keel, yeah. That was the one that, they hit a rock, came out, got fixed by you, got launched, hit a rock the next week, came out, got fixed by you again.
And both times they were leaking as
you were glassing it. Yeah.
That was
because ideally you don't want any water seepage.
No, that was Wind Dancer.
Oh, that was Wind Dancer.
Now we call that Rock Dancer.
Rock Dancer, yeah. Oh, jeez.
Per Murph, we call it Rock Dancer now.
But you can see that's interesting too. That you can actually do sort of a fix, even if it's saturated with water and all that.
Yeah, just that one area is not gonna. It's not the way I like to do it. And I told him usually I wouldn't do this. And he's like, I got to have the boat back in the water.
Yeah, because they charter it, right?
They charter it, and it was going to be a $5,000 loss that he was going to have to pay back. And he said, glass it. And I said, I'm not guaranteeing this at all.
Yeah, right.
I'll fix it right when you want it done right, and he just hasn't done it yet.
Have you had to, have you come across any boats where people have done just awful jobs that you've got to go in and
definitely
recreate?
Even sometimes on new boats, like you're trying to fix something and there's like some hot glue and a piece of wood stuck in somewhere where there shouldn't be, because that was part of the way they wedged it up to get it to fit properly before they tabbed it in place.
Oh, right.
But they didn't take all the pieces out that they used.
Leave them in there.
You just leave them in there and cover them, when someone had to go in there because for some reason, there was it wasn't perfect and stuff was getting through, and it was because of that.
Yeah. Well, I've definitely seen, when I used to work a lot with small boats, and a lot of the kids that I used to work with there, or not kids, but college students, they didn't know any of that stuff. And you'd have people trying to fiberglass onto paint and on top of gel coat, and you could just go up with your fingernail and pull the corner of it and just rip the whole thing off.
Done it plenty of times.
Yeah, I mean, if you're fiberglassing onto bare fiberglass, you can't pull that up.
No, you have to get the shiny off.
Yeah,
and you don't have to get the gel coat all the way off. I usually try to, just because it's another layer that you don't have to rely on failing.
Yeah,
if you're bonding to the fiberglass itself, and it's good fiberglass, your job is going to come out better.
Yeah.
You know, it's gonna adhere better to the product, to the boat, and you don't have to worry about it. Once the old repairs, like I'm doing on Joe's boat, there's parts of it I can pull right up with my fingers and with a little putty knife, and it's all coming up because water got under it because
Yeah.
they didn't seal it properly, you know, or they didn't prep. They lose a whole hull inside off their pilot house because they didn't prep the wood properly before they fiberglassed it. And
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
all delaminated, you know, so I can pull off a whole sheet off of boat.
Yeah, just like rip.
Right
There we
off.
go.
He goes, "You got to grind all that?" And I said, "I might not have to.
I don't think I have to. Watch
And
this.
I just cut the edge, put a putty knife in it, and it was like a 4x6 sheet of fiberglass just coming off a piece of plywood.
Oh, jeez.
And
Oh,
I redid
my
it.
God.
And you couldn't do it now if you tried. You know?
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
you
my
would
God.
ruin the plywood. So
Well, I before I took off on the trip around the world, I ripped out all the old teak that was on the deck, and I laid down. I want to say it was chop strand. Is that right? That's the
Yeah.
one that looks like, just confetti that's pressed.
yeah,
And I laid a
Putty.
layer of that down on top of the deck because it was when I pulled that deck up, it had been siliconed, I guess, in place. There were holes all over it. And even though I know the deck is pretty thick on a West Sail, it's got probably a 1/4-inch fiberglass, then
the core.
and then the core, and then another thing of fiberglass. I
Do
mean,
you know
when
what it has for core in it?
I think it's 3/4 inch or 1/2 inch
core
wood.
or balsa or
It's wood. It's
Wood.
like it
Plywood.
looks like plywood.
okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, it's better than balsa.
Yeah. But I mean, the whole deck is I think just over an inch thick.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So you don't really get any soft spots or anything like that. But I ended up just laying down one more layer. But I ended up using West System because that's all I had.
Right.
So I don't know. I know that if I sand the boat this year and try to change the color of the deck and all that sort of stuff, I may throw one more layer down. I don't know. I don't think I really need to, but it was an interesting project, cutting all of the stuff out and then just trying to make sure I had enough resin to cover that whole area. It was pretty crazy watching you build that box and just dumping, 2 gallons of resin and all that. Holy cow, that's how
It goes
it's done.
quick if you have a project going and you're laying down sheets that are 10 feet long
Yeah.
by 3 feet over outside of a box. It was helpful having the extra set of hands with Murph in there.
Yeah, I'll bet.
The first
right?
time, the second time I did it myself, and it seemed all right. It didn't take long to kick off after I was done.
Yeah.
So, and then you have to drill a hole in it so it doesn't gas. And what I had was a golf tee that I put tape around.
Yeah.
And I pounded that in the hole a little bit so the tape made a little flange or a little gasket.
Bit of a seal, yeah.
Seal. I glassed it all up, and I was like, I got to get that out of there. So I took a little Vicky knife, and sliced a little bit, and the golf tee kind of went right up.
Oh, really?
the air inside of the tank had already expanded enough that it pushed it right up out of the hole.
Holy cow.
So
well,
that's
you're
what you
dealing
have
with
to watch
gases
out for.
and then, like temperature changes and things like that
the
when you're building a
styrene
box.
and, it's all that stuff heats up in there and just expands. And if you don't put a hole in it, you're doing damage.
So this is how big of a fuel tank is this?
That was 8 feet by 32 or something like
This
that.
is probably like
28.
a 200-gallon tank or
It's
something.
150.
150
is what the old one tank was.
So what did you use? How do you? I don't even understand how you can build a box out of fiberglass.
Well, first I just a cheap sheet of melamine. It was white, like Formica on both sides of a piece of wood is melamine.
Okay.
I just use that as a panel. I wax that and I fiberglass the sides. I cut the material to the sizes that I needed of the tank, so it made for less trimming and stuff like that.
Oh, so you make all the
I
sides.
make all the sides first,
And then
make
you
the
put it
tops,
together.
make the ends, make the baffles, cut it all down, prep it all out, and then I start hot gluing with blocks and trying to square it up. And
Yeah.
you're actually making the box, and then you just hot tab it so you can get like 3 by 4 inch hot tabs of fiberglass in there, so it kicks off quick, and it won't fall apart on you.
Yeah.
You get it hot tabbed, and then you can be a little rougher with it. When it's just a hot glue and blocks, you have to be a little careful. You knock all that stuff out of there, prep out the areas where you just hot tabbed, and then go around and do all the inside radiuses of the inside of the tank.
Right.
So
Okay.
on that tank, I did 3 layers for each panel, and then on the inside, I did 3 layers in the inside radiuses. I flipped it over and did 5 layers on the outside radiuses, and then I put 5 more layers on the top and the bottom of the whole tank.
Mm-hmm.
So, and on the corners, I overlapped it all.
Yeah.
So the corners get double that of what I put on.
Right. Well, because won't they take the most pressure, I guess?
You're right. 'Cause
Yeah,
that's where
yeah.
the seams are.
That's where all the
And
seams
all
are,
the
right?
seams are the weakest area in that on those.
And is it? I mean, what's sort of the advantage, I guess, of a fiberglass fuel tank as opposed to a stainless steel one?
I think right now, stainless is just so expensive.
It's expensive.
It's expensive. They usually would
And it's
do-
heavy, I guess,
They would
right?
actually usually do aluminum because it's a lot lighter. I think the product, I think they use it. I don't know if it's. I guess it would be a better product than using a stainless one. It's just so heavy.
Yeah.
Aluminum's a lot less weight and money.
But aluminum, you can get pitting and all that sort of stuff.
So if you don't prep it right before you put it in, and you don't have a professional paint job on it with primer and the special primers that go on it,
yeah.
it's not going to last as long. And when it's underneath a deck, and so when you have to replace one of these,
It's
you have to cut your part.
serious-
You have to cut your deck up to get the
Yeah.
part, the tank out, which is what we had to do.
Right.
It just happens that we have a glass guy here, and I can make a tank, and without everybody, the way everything is now, everybody's a month behind, or it seems like they're more than that even. You can't get your lawnmower fixed for an extra month because they have a backup. Hard to get people to work on stuff.
Well, it's like the labor shortage
right,
thing. I
it's
mean,
just the same thing,
hitting everybody.
It's just
They were dying to get me up here.
and it just takes so long for them to make something like that when I can make it here.
Yeah.
And just make it off of scraps,
Right.
Not the glass. The glass, we bought a roll of material, and I've been using the material for that, and it adds up.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Oh,
Which I
sure.
still have to add it up. That's why I don't know the total number of yards I put into it.
right.
But, I got to give all that info to the front office.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, because they outsource the work to you.
Right.
Yeah.
And so they get the money for the material because they bought all the material and stuff and the resin. So I keep track of all that and give it to Celia, and they can make their money off of it.
Well, that's nice because that doesn't put you out of pocket.
Right. I don't have to go ahead and buy a drum of resin.
Right.
Or I
Exactly.
don't. Better than that, I don't have to buy it a gallon at a time or 5 gallons at a time. When I can get somebody like Celia at Night Marine Service.
Yeah. Night Marine Service, biggest little boatyard in Maine.
There we go. Make sure you say hi to Murph at the corner. Without somebody like that purchasing the drum of resin, the 2 rolls of material, it would cost a lot more in the long run because you're not having the access to the whole 55-gallon drum.
Right.
When
Yeah.
you need it.
Yeah.
But you just have to make sure you write it all down, and which I do. I write it.
Gotta do the paperwork.
Write it on the side
gotta
of the
be
drum.
diligent.
How much I'm taking out of it, and which project. I got like 6 different projects on there with.
Yeah,
I should
I'll
go
bet,
take a
right?
picture before somebody goes and wipes it all off with acetone. So,
Well, and I mean, working with all those chemicals, what sort of precautions do you recommend people take? If you're dealing with lots of acetone, lots of fiberglass, all that stuff.
if you feel like you have to do it, they sell rubber gloves. Don't buy the nitrile gloves because nitrile just. When you put if you touch acetone with nitrile gloves on,
Just eats it.
They balloon right up and they'll disintegrate right off your hands. Latex, lightly powdered gloves are the best way to go.
And have a lot of them.
And have a lot of
'cause
them.
they tear pretty easy.
And it's stuff it should have some lessons on doing it if you're trying to, or what I did was I worked at a place that when I first started, it was almost like a school. When I worked at North End, I was getting trained by people that have been doing it for 20 years, and some of those 3 people now are, and I'm one of them now that have been doing it long enough that we're all buddies, and sometimes all 4 of us will be at the same boatyard, and it's like they'll be like, "How many years of history do we have here now?" It's like, yeah, I'm like, yeah, I learned from that guy and that guy how to do stuff. Scotty Miller and Henry Peters. I learned from those guys, and I still learn. Chris Carpenter. Those guys. Those are. If I couldn't do a job, I'd call one of those 3 guys to see if they would do it.
Yeah.
Because, I don't trust anybody else's work.
Well, that's good to have. Few people that you can trust with.
A lot of those guys now say, "No, I'm not. You have to do it."
It probably all depends on the job.
Yes.
It's sort of like, I when I did the decks, I remember when I had to go and grind all the old gel coat off, I had to build a tent.
Yeah.
Because I was pretty close to all these other boats. I didn't want to just completely destroy them with dust and all that. And
the boat over there, I have the sailboat in the other yard, I have to grind out the keel where the keel bolts are.
Oh, really?
And the boat itself is beautiful inside. It's kind of all molded and there's no damage. So, if I don't want to have to clean all that stuff up afterwards or make it all stinky from fiberglass and from dust, I have to plastic the whole boat off.
Essentially,
or make a little cube where I can get into and just grind.
Well, that stuff, that dust,
it goes everywhere.
Oh my God almighty. It's the worst. And I was always told if you get fiberglass on your skin and everything, the best thing to do is jump into a cold shower so that your pores don't open. Oh, nice. Wrong answer. I've also heard you spray yourself down with hairspray.
What I've always done is just the warm water, not super hot. You want it warm. If you use cold water, your pores close because they're of the shock of the cold.
Oh, so they close.
So if there's
if
there's any fiberglass in that pore, it gets stuck in that pore. And then if you put something on that has long sleeves with that nylon in the middle of it, the nylon sleeves.
Yeah.
You got to take it off because it just pins and needles all over your
arms.
All over
for weeks.
Just for that, just because of that material.
Yeah.
Anything else is fine. A lot of it, I like I said, I use a warm water, shampoo, everything's normal after that.
Right.
I don't go hot because I don't want it to be scalding hot. And I don't want it to be cold because, like I said, the pores shut and they close up on the fibers that are stuck in your body. And I found a Neutrogena has a body wash that's for calming skin. So if you have itchy skin and stuff like that all the time, you use this as a body wash, and it, so if I know I've been grinding some stuff that day and my sleeves were bare, my arms were bare, I'll use that stuff first for the body wash first, and then I'll use my normal stuff afterwards.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
It's just like a pre-wash, and I found a couple of them and I bought what I could.
Yeah, right.
Because nobody else buys that stuff.
More of this?
So I gotta look online and see if I can get a case of it.
Well, I know what I can get you for Christmas. Yeah. There we go.
And the other thing about trying to do your own work, if you want it to come out good, and you want to be happy with something you want to look at for a long period of time. Yeah. Have someone a trained professional do it for you. You're going to be so much happier with the product in the long run if you have somebody that knows what they're doing do it for you.
Well, it comes out looking brand new.
Yes.
And it's pretty amazing to see. I've seen some of the examples of work that you've done. I'm looking forward to seeing Smoking Bull, Heath's boat.
Yeah.
Because you did the awning on that, right?
Yeah, I did some of the awning. I got to do some more on that. But what do they call it? Yeah, I guess it's an awning or a
something. Yeah, I don't know what you would call it. Yeah, right. The visor. Okay.
Yeah, except it's on the side. It's on the starboard side over the overhang. So when they're doing when they're working on the rail trying to do the traps, they're not getting rained on.
Yeah, yeah.
Type of thing.
Well, he's that
You
kind
know.
of captain. He
Yeah.
wants to take care of his
Yeah.
stern man and all that.
Yeah,
He's a
and
good guy.
we like to making sure we do that stuff right. It's Joe's boat up there. We just did the outside of the pilot house and the inside of the pilot house for him. It was just raw plywood.
Yeah.
And I mean, when you see a lobsterman and they're like getting giddy, and if you know Joe, you don't get giddy that often, and he's awful excited,
Yeah, right.
tempting me with extra money and, bags of green stuff.
Yeah, like, hey, Peter.
Anything this can help you come up here a little sooner.
Yeah, right.
And you don't mind busting your balls either, and you get anything to like poke you to say, hey, come on up here, guy. So after the last couple of days, after I get out of work here around 4, I'll go up there and work until 6.
Yeah, yeah.
And the other morning I went in at 6 over there, got here at 9, got out here at 4, and went back up there until 8.
Oh, really? Jeez, just grinding it out.
Well, that was glassing, it's just got to do steps, and like yesterday I went up and ground, and so the next time I go, I'll be able just to gel coat it. I don't have to do both in the same night.
Right.
So I'm just getting it ready so the next time I can go up and finish the whole thing, and then he can put his windows in. He's getting close to going to water.
Yeah, yeah. Wow.
So when the fishermen get the itch there, they got to get in there.
Oh yeah, no, you start sniffing that some fish are in the water out there. It's like,
and some of the guys have
come on, Pete.
Some of the guys that have wives at home and they're tired of them being around, and they're like, you got to get back in the water.
My wife is killing me.
I hear that a lot.
It is nice to, these boatyards. I love working in the boatyard and just being around this place because always has a lot of interesting characters. There's lots of work to be done, so there's never a shortage of that. And it's just, I don't know, it's a fun social place. You wouldn't think that, like a boatyard would be sort of a social area, but it really is.
Well,
we're always hanging out.
It's all part of it. We all kind of work together. I can go work at other places too. I subcontract, but my heart's kind of Rockland and.
Is Night Marine your favorite?
Well, of course it is.
Yeah, there we go.
I like coming down here. I went to high school with Cy. Celia was a senior when I was a freshman.
Oh, really? Okay.
Celia's the president of the Lobster Festival. I'm the vice president of the Lobster Festival.
Yeah, Murph was saying you've been volunteering for that for years, right?
I set up the grounds. So when it's time for the day after our last meeting in July, is the next day I start setting up stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm there until we tear it all down the Monday and Tuesday after the festival.
Well,
it's like 2 weeks of me working straight.
Right.
Down there for hours.
If I'm here in August, if you need an assistant, I'm happy to volunteer my time.
Yeah. Well, sometimes Celia knows that, and her being the president, she doesn't mind saying that she has some people that she can volunteer.
Yeah, she can voluntarily volunteer.
Yeah, they're voluntold to get to work.
Voluntold. Well, anything to help because it's been 2 years now, right?
Yes, it has been, and this is our 75th year. Setting up the grounds is pretty tough. There's a lot of stuff going on. We have the tents get set up, and we have to fill them all.
Yeah,
And lucky for us, we have a prison farm down the road, Baldock Farms, and they have a prison crew that they send over every year.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
They're all work release people, and and they come over and they do a hell of a job for us. They bust my ass. They bust ass for us over there hard.
Yeah.
And they love it. They get out of there. They, I don't know if you know what they get for food. They get a bag lunch before they leave.
Yeah.
And most of the time it's probably bologna sandwich and bag of chips or something and something to drink.
Nothing, fancy.
And, we kind of set them up,
That's good.
They bust their ass for us, but they know when they get there, there's going to be Dunkin' Donuts and there's going to be coffee. They know that lunchtime we're going to have somebody, one of our volunteers or a member or a director will come and set up the barbecue and start grilling.
Yeah.
Or we'll give them a menu and they can order for anything they want off the menu from wherever.
Oh, nice. Well, if people work hard, I mean, you gotta make sure there's an incentive in there, and if it's year after year after year, you're gonna get a reputation. Then those guys are chomping at the bit to come down.
Well, they love it, and you'd be surprised. I see some after they get out, and they come running up to me like, Pete, man, oh, I'm glad I helped you that time.
Yeah, right.
You know, well, the thing is, I mean, I got a brother, you know, I got two younger brothers. One of them's been in jail 31 out of his 51 years.
Jeez.
So when these guys from the prison farm come down and they come to volunteer and they help me, and then they find out that my name's Peter Beale, and next thing they know, oh, Beale, are you related to Scooter Beale? And I'm like, yeah, it's my younger brother. Believe me, they will do whatever.
Yeah, right.
They all kind of like him, and they all, he's a good guy, and blah blah blah, and they seem to want to work a little harder.
Yeah,
because they know where
well,
they're
you're
coming
connected
from.
Yeah,
They know I've dealt with what they're going through and stuff. I've dealt with my brother being in jail for years, so it's what happens.
Yeah.
And I mean, every family has that.
Yeah, that's one of those things where I don't want to say I'm going through that same exact thing, but I definitely I don't know. It's strange when you have family members that get themselves into some kind of trouble here or there, and it could be anything from, actual breaking laws and crimes to having, issues just with life in general and stuff.
Or drugs.
I don't know. Yeah, or drugs or something like that.
A lot of things.
It's hard. It's hard to watch or be part of that when it's not going well, especially for a sibling. I mean, but how do you deal with it? Besides just trying to be able to be there and support the person.
I work.
Yeah, right. You just work.
I work. I take care of my family, and my brothers. I love them and everything, and they don't want to be around, and I can't really help them if they don't want to put the effort in to call me, and they change the number, and I don't have his phone number.
Yeah.
What are you supposed to do?
Well, it's true. It's true. I think just being there and know it,
if he calls me, I will answer the phone.
You'll pick it up.
And I'll give him a ride. I'll give him whatever, not whatever he wants, because I'm not giving them money so that they can buy whatever they want.
Right, yeah.
I have learned lessons, believe me, throughout the years.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to be enabling things and all that sort of stuff.
No more of that.
But it is hard, I because I'm sort of going through this. I'm trying to, part of me wants to get all motivational and pep talk and all that sort of stuff, but I don't know if that does anything but put more pressure on the person.
Yeah, and a lot of times they pushes you away.
Yeah, right.
They
don't want to hear it.
They're going to do what they're going to do.
Right, right.
And they don't want to be a burden.
Yeah.
And they think they're being a burden when they're by us and they're doing it, and they think they're a burden, so they stay away. And what it does is burdens me because I don't get to see my brothers.
Yeah. It turns into this cycle where everybody's almost trying to not burden the person, and yeah, like you said, it just separates everybody.
Right.
Which is the opposite of what you actually want, because it's that interaction and that sense of belonging to the family and everything's, that's how things, I would assume, that's how things get back to a better place.
Right. And, to him, they do what they do. And, it's tough when their mind's already set up that they're failing. That they're a failure, and that they don't want to do anything else because they're already a failure. To my eyes, they're not a failure. They're just my brother.
Right.
Try to help them out and everything, and you can only do so much.
Yeah. Well, and I think a lot of people are sort of dealing with stuff like that just from the last 2 years.
Yep.
Because things were going pretty well for a while there, and then all of a sudden, like, everybody just got stamped down and told not to do anything and all that sort of stuff, and I think it sent way more people into a spiral than we know just yet,
Yeah.
And it's definitely been hard to claw our way out, but like you said, sometimes the best thing you can do is just work.
Yeah. And if I dwelled on it, I would be miserable.
Yeah.
My family would be miserable. My wife would be miserable.
And we don't want that.
No, we definitely don't want that. You know, my son is just 23 years old and just graduated college.
Yeah, congratulations.
It's the last thing, thank you. It's the last thing he needs to do, even though his senior project was on my brother Scott. It was, Not Another Second was the name of it, and soon to be out in a book, photography book.
Oh, wow.
And it was, he was there when he took a field study and stayed home at our place when my brother got out for the last time.
Mm-hmm.
We've been documenting the whole thing, from him getting out, him moving in with us. Going shopping.
Really?
He documented the whole thing, set up timelines, and got it all set up so that, he had a month ago, we had a full art show down in the school down at Hampshire College in Amherst, where they had it all set up, and it was very nice. It had 4 different kinds of media, art photos on the wall, overhead projector showing something up against a sheet, with comments about prisons and stuff that were, both sides of the spectrum. They had a video going of Scott getting out of the jail, out of the prison, when we all walked up to him and stuff. And
how long had he been in there for?
At that time was 10 years.
10 years. Holy
straight.
Cow. Wow.
And that was his second 10-year bid in a row.
Yeah.
So,
jeez.
I think he got in trouble the same day he got out.
Oh, jeez. Oh, man. Yeah.
So.
That's crazy. Well, I'd love to see some of that stuff. Huh.
Yeah,
be interesting.
They're waiting for the book to come back from the publisher now.
Oh, really?
So it's being printed right now.
Oh, very cool.
Some of it,
nice.
So it should be cool.
I'll trade you one of my books for one of his books. How's that sound?
Yeah, hopefully.
I'll get Murph to broker the deal.
I was like, how come I don't know how many you got? And I was like, get more. And he was like, well, if we have a limited supply, they, they might be worth more in the long run. And he's like,
good luck
something like
with that.
And I'm like,
right.
So, but he might have to come down here too and do this for you.
Oh, I'd love to. No,
I think he's got a project he's talking about. He just did one with Murph the other day, and so he's got a new project that he's working on, and how people feel about Maine and stuff like that, and just talking like that. Yeah, and so Murph was his first one, and so he's going to work on.
Oh, he did it with Murph.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Because he has a 4x5 camera that he did the old school, put the blanket up over his head, got it all focused.
Oh, really?
But now they have a Polaroid mechanism that you can slide in the back of it.
Yeah.
And you push the button, and a Polaroid comes out of a 4x5 camera.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. I think I've seen that. So I think my cousin has one.
There with the folded end,
Right. Yank it out, shake it.
Yeah, he doesn't. That's just kind of. That's a myth.
Yeah, I know, right? I've got a lot of misconceptions
I like that song
in my
too.
brain.
I don't know if it works or not, but I just had he said no, you don't have to.
Yeah, right. So. Well, can I not to break out of or break back into the whole glass stuff?
Yeah.
But I'm thinking for my listeners, because I had a buddy of mine, Pax, who is really good with wiring, electrics, all that sort of stuff on boats, and we sort of got into it. But I was thinking maybe it might be useful for the old listeners for it when, let's say, pretty commonplace, you got your sailboat, you're walking around on it, and you got a soft spot in the deck. What does Peter Beal do to step by step? What do you have to do to be able to make that? And if you don't have to give away any secrets.
No, I understand. Well, my problem is I've only repaired lobster boat decks.
Well, and that's the same. Yeah, I mean, fiberglass deck, you got a soft spot.
Yeah,
you got to fix it.
A lot of the times, like the lobster boats are made a little differently, obviously, than a deck of a sailboat.
Yeah, we're made to be as light as possible.
Right,
lobster boats are a little different.
Like, so if it was a sailboat, I'd cut through the top of the first layer of glass to get down to the core area
and see if that's rotted.
See if that's rotted. See if that's the If it is, then you can peel that stuff out.
So what do you use? Like a Dremel to just cut that off?
Sometimes a sharp putty knife. Sometimes, I've used air chisels.
Yeah.
It was in there really hard, or take teak decking off. We used to have to use air chisels.
Right.
But then you replace if the decking is bad itself, in a sailboat, you just replace that and you can glass back over. In a lobster boat, I would cut the deck off where that is, cut the plywood out that's underneath of it, and just look to see how it's formed underneath. What's underneath there for 2x or for their
reinforcement,
for the ribs and reinforcements underneath, because that's usually the part that is the failure. Is the stuff that's holding it in place.
Sometimes
the
actual
gives
support
away there.
Right.
And if they don't protect that stuff to begin with, or something that is used, they don't use pressure treated or marine plywood, stuff like that gives away. Those products work better.
Yeah.
If you don't use them, they're not going to last as long, and then you're ripping up part of the deck.
Right.
So like on Jim's boat, I just did the Jackie Renee.
Yeah.
He had a couple soft spots. I cut that deck out. I cut the piece out just where it needed to be. Cut it all out, replaced it, fixed the ribbing inside, sistered a bunch of 2x underneath there that were pressure treated, and cut a piece of plywood that fit back in the hole and reglassed it.
Yeah, so with that plywood part, with the core,
Yeah.
you're just trying to cut out anything that's rotten.
Right.
And then you're going to basically cut a new piece of wood that fits that exact
Inside,
hole.
whole core.
That core, so you just plop that back in,
and
then when it's time to actually glass it, to be able to make it perfect, you've got obviously the chop strand, and then you've got the woven.
Yep.
What is the difference between those?
Well, the chop strand is just continuous chop strand. It's just weird looking. It's called matte. It's matte fibers.
Fiberglass mat. Yeah.
Fiberglass mat. And everybody, if you see it, you know what it is. It
looks like confetti.
Yeah, it looks kind of weird. We get it out in large rolls of it, 50-inch rolls, and you just roll it out and cut it up.
So you're going to start with that?
I would put a layer of that down. Most of the time on sailboats, sometimes they use boat cloth, which is more of it kind of looks more like roven, because roven is weaved.
Yeah.
So it's like
there's
45.
the thick ones, and then there's the really thin.
Yeah, and like those, they're all considered in like 10-ounce boat cloth.
Oh, okay.
So it goes by the ounce of material.
Oh, the heaviness
how much
of
something
it
weighs by like a square foot of it or something, or whatever it is.
Is that woven stuff more for like the top coat?
It's usually the mat's what you put on the top.
Oh, okay.
Usually the structural stuff gets sandwiched between mat. So I would put a layer of mat, woven, and then mat back on it. If you're gonna sand any of it, put 2 mats on top of it, so you have some mat to wear off.
Oh,
when
okay.
you go to sand it.
Yeah.
Or you keep it a little low and then do a skim pass a putty over the top of it with polyfair.
Right.
Or Rage or whatever you use for Bondo.
Well, so okay, just to keep us on the timeline. So you find the soft spot, you cut away the top, you find the core is rotted as well, so you replace the core.
Yep.
Then you're gonna go ahead and when you prep the area around your hole, you want to grind all the way down to bare fiberglass all around that for what, like an inch or two?
You want to go out on a bevel so that when you're putting the glass back in,
it's sort of angling.
It angles back up, and so you can put smaller pieces in and then gradually get bigger. So that
now we're getting to the secrets.
Keeps it level, so that if you just keep it flat all the way, then you get this big bump on the big bump, right? And it's not.
It's going to be more work in the end.
It's going to be more work in the end because you have to fair it up better,
right?
And you're not getting a good seal because you're glassing something that's square, that's sharp edged or 90s.
Yeah.
So you backfill with putty and go over it. But if you bevel those out and then you lay your glass in there and stagger it,
slowly filling that up.
Slowly fills it up, and then you can, on the edges don't get thick, is what it is.
Right,
you fill up the middle, but the edges aren't getting so thick that you don't have a big bump.
Yeah, because the worst thing to happen is you build up so much
Yeah.
that you end up taking a grinder to it instead of a sander, and then you end up grinding too much, and then you're like, okay,
you're
now I
doing
got
it
to
again.
add some more. That's what
boats
I
that-
end up doing.
I see boats that look like they had measles. Just goiters all over the thing. It was like, I thought you said you fixed this.
Yeah, right.
It just looked like they put 10 layers too many on each spot.
So you use some mat, some woven, and then some more mat,
Yeah.
usually 2 layers. Grind that down, get it faired out. Use a sander, get it as faired
Yeah.
out as possible.
You can definitely, and if you're doing something like that, you definitely want to put peel ply on the top of it. The peel ply will make you have such a better product.
And is that in? Excuse me. Oh, went down the wrong pipe. Oh, sorry.
It's all right.
Sugar-free Red Bull attacked me. Is that peel ply? Is that in place of using like filler? Or are you still going to have to use
the
filler?
But this is something that makes that product come out better, so you don't have to grind as much.
Okay.
You don't have to prep it as much because when you peel it off, you can gel right over it. Some people say you can gel right over it. I've always scuffed it up a little bit, just to get sometimes there's little voids on the top where you couldn't get the air out.
Mm-hmm.
The peel ply, sometimes if you have folded it before, it just has a memory that does not go away.
Oh, it just has that little crease
So
there.
that crease will come back every time, but it's not leaving air in your project. It's leaving air on the top of your project, so it might leave a little, something that you just sand off with a DA and it goes right away.
Right.
Then you can do your putty pass and then you can gel coat or whatever you're doing.
Whatever you're doing on top. Okay. Well, and when you lay those multiple layers of glass down, you can lay all of them down in one shot.
Yes, you can.
You don't need to do one and then wait for it to kick and all that.
You just want to make sure you're doing it the right percent of the resin when you're doing it. When you go to kick it off, if you have a lot of product that you're putting on and it's a nice summer day, you want to be going 1% or 0.75% before you kick it off.
You mean how much hardener you're putting in there?
You're putting in the resin.
So ease up on the hardener when it's hotter and
Like
sunnier.
today,
and all
when
that.
it's a little overcast and there's a breeze, if you're outdoors, you can go 1.5, 2. Anytime you're doing a big project and you don't want it to kick off until you're done, stick with 1%. And 1% means you're putting 40 cc's of MEKP in a gallon of resin. So half gallon we get 20,
Right.
get 10.
Okay. And always make sure that you're mixing more than you think.
Well,
So you don't end up not mix more hardener, but make a bigger batch of actual
what I do
resin.
is I measure. So I put a marker right on each.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
put a marker on the 1 quart, and I put a marker on the 2 quart. So that I always go to one of those two.
You've got it just right.
I know I got it just right, so it's not going to kick off. So I'm not guesstimating or I'm not estimating. This is close. So that's how you fuck up.
That's how you
projects.
screw it up. Well, I've had that happen where you're about halfway through a project and then it starts to lump
I
up.
think we've all had that.
And at that point, if that happens to you, I know I've tried to save it and continue, but once it starts to lump, it's done.
You're done.
You might as well just pull it all off while you
Well,
can.
most of the time, I know the project that I've already done. I put the 5 layers on the tank the other night. After the first 3 layers, I bubble popped it.
Oh, okay.
So if anything kicked off over that, I know the first 3 layers are down good.
They're good. Yeah.
So if I waited to the end, that stuff underneath would have been what it was. I wouldn't have been able to bubble pop that because it would have already been hard.
Right.
I'd only be popping the stuff on the top.
Okay.
So I had to pop it twice, once at the 3rd layer and once on the 5th layer.
Gotcha. Well, and when you say bubble pop it, what does that mean?
That just means I have a roller that's some of them plastic, some of them metal, and they
with the little grooves,
little grooves in it, and some of them have the fuzzy has like little black whisker roll, and it just
just to get every little bit of air
and
out of
it. They work awesome on mat. So if you're doing something on the outside of mat and it's a big surface, you use the fuzzy and it rolls it right out.
Right.
It comes out wicked good.
Okay.
So-
And then whenever you're finished with those tools, if you want to actually keep them for the future, you put them in acetone. Yeah.
Yes.
That was what I was sort of surprised when I saw that big bucket. I was like, dang, that's a lot of rollers, and that is definitely acetone.
Yes, it is. I need to clean it.
Yeah, right? Oh, man.
Because a lot of time you get done with putty, you putty like a spreader. You can just, when you putty in, you can just throw the spreader in acetone.
Yeah.
Need it next time. It's all either pre-released off of it, but it's all in the acetone bucket.
Yeah, yeah,
So
exactly.
then all that putty gets into my rollers, so I have to clean all those off at the same time. So,
I always if I'm using putty, I just let it kick off on whatever, because then you can break it
off,
free,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Oh, man. God, it's so crazy. I don't know. I enjoy doing fiberglass work when I have to do it. But yeah, like I said, I've screwed it up a million times. I've learned all of it just from watching like YouTube and stuff.
Yeah.
But to be able to sort of see you go through some of it is pretty incredible. I mean, you're definitely an artist with it.
I appreciate it. I just got done doing a boat down Journey's End, and
The Murph is back. Give us 5 minutes, bud.
I had a kid was helping me do the Holland side, and
We better answer that. We're using Murph Shack today. Oh, it's Heath Bomb.
Oh,
Heath, we're almost
sorry,
finished.
buddy. Yeah, do you want me to step out?
If you can sit quietly,
Yeah,
okay, cool. I could say that to Murph, but that's
know better.
impossible. Yeah, right. No, you're a friend of the show. You're always welcome. We're just wrapping this up. Believe it or not, Pete, we're at 57 minutes.
there we go. Look at that.
It's pretty incredible. You can talk glass for 57 minutes.
Well, it was a mixture.
Yeah,
But,
we
you
got
know,
sort of in and out.
Back to the kid at the Journey's End, he was like, at first he thought, oh, I can do this stuff. I've done it before. And then he was helping me on the Holland side, and I'm right at the end, right underneath the boat, getting the tail end of it with peel ply. And he's like, looks at me and he goes, geez, you do know what you're doing, don't you? I've seen my friends do this, and none of them do it like that.
Yeah, right.
I'm like, no, they don't.
Oh, jeez.
That's just from
man.
years of doing it.
Yeah.
But I do like seeing the facial expressions and the lobstermen that appreciate the work when the job's done, and the guy comes over and knocks on his fuel tank, and he's like, "That's fucking rugged as shit right there, guy,"
right.
And
Nice work, guy.
It feels good when they're happy,
Oh, absolutely.
I think I earned my money by them being happy, and they appreciate it. Lucky enough that some of them pay me extra.
Oh, I don't doubt it. Well, because I mean, when you put together a really great product in the end, and it's shocking how when fiberglass is done correctly, I mean, it does. It looks like a brand new boat,
Right.
or at least an area of the
Yeah.
boat.
And sometimes it's hard for me not to do it that way from being years at Lyman Morris, 20 years at Lyman Morris boat building.
yeah.
We built boats there that were 95-foot, 4-story superstructures.
Oh,
you
really?
know, that were, $15 million boats that
Yeah.
were, the guy that invented the credit card swipe machine.
Oh,
You know,
jeez.
so that's who we built the boat for, and
Yeah.
the thing was beautiful. And, some of my favorite projects came from there. Magpie, 74-foot motor cruiser that we built that actually won a award.
From the keel up, you built these boats?
Yeah, from the mold up.
Holy cow.
And we ended up, got the awards that year for the best 70 meters to 120 meters.
Oh, really?
Best boat in the world. We were the only ones in the United States to be in the competition that were chosen out of the 5 best ones, and we actually won it.
Right here in Maine.
Right here, and that was in Thomaston.
Well, in Thomaston, yeah.
But I mean, it feels good when you do stuff like that. The projects that the 20 years there, I did a lot of stuff that was very cool.
Yeah.
And just church steeples. Make a fiberglass church steeple.
Oh, really?
Right as you go down the hill in Camden, right
Yeah.
behind the Camden National Bank.
Uh-huh.
Well, that big steeple right there, that's all fiberglass.
That's all fiberglass?
Yeah.
Oh, my God. The secrets are coming out. That's pretty cool.
And I was trying to get them hooked up so that they can put like the web like
a webcam.
yeah, just not even webcams, but have it so they can transport it to different areas so people can get at the the lookouts, not the lookouts, but forget the terminology.
Wait,
You
what?
know, they set it up so they, you know, the tower down at the chimney
Yeah.
down in Camden.
Oh,
They have all the things tied around it.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
those are all transmitters. So it gives
okay.
your loop, your single could go further.
Right.
Is what I was trying to explain.
Oh, okay, I got you.
So they put that on. Some churches put them on the inside, and they get a little revenue from that.
Right. Oh, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Huh. Little side hustle.
Little side hustle. For
Might
the
as well.
church.
Hey, bring me that money. Well, I guess my last question to wrap it up: if people want to protect their fiberglass, what's the best way to do that?
Just make sure you, if you're doing brand new fiberglass, gel coat it.
Gel coat it.
You just got to gel coat it with wax in the gel coat. And you know, if you have a hull, if you have a new glass done, you always want to make sure you're just protecting it. Either all
It's got to
grip
be
it.
covered.
You don't want to cover it. It's just it'll break down quicker from the sunlight.
Yeah.
You know,
Sunlight's the biggest enemy,
yes,
isn't it?
You know,
And
if
water,
you-
I guess.
Right, and if you don't have that, you know, if you don't have that protection on there, that just beats the UVA or UV rays just come down and pound on it.
It slowly disintegrates.
Right.
Yeah.
And you can gel coat it, you know, all failure hulls, any of that stuff. Anything that you can put the extra in the long run, it's going to last longer. And if you go to sell, it's going to sell faster.
Yeah. Well, true.
So,
Well, Pete, I can't thank you enough for coming on, man. I really appreciate it. Yeah, we hit an hour already,
no
bud.
problem. Hopefully I was informative and not too babblish.
Oh, heck yeah. No, guy. It's one of those where
I'm just an old school Rockland kid here,
hey,
trying to get along in this tight world.
I'm sure we'll probably sit down again because I have a feeling there's quite a bit going on in that brain of yours that it's just itching to get out.
Oh, yeah. Always itching. So, no problem. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you so much, Pete.
Have a good night.